Hello and welcome to the webinar, Strategic Planning Basics, FY2015 for our ASID professional chapters. This webinar is brought to you by ASID and it is part of the ASID Leadership Training Series. Today, this webinar is targeted specifically for ASID professional chapter president-elects, as this position is in charge of the strategic planning committee and process for the chapters. Let's go ahead and get started. Just going to walk you through the agenda of this training webinar. We're going to start with an introduction of ASID 2.0, which will include some market data and ASID positioning information. And then we will go into the strategic planning reset process that the National Staff Leadership Team recently underwent, starting in the fall of 2013 and up until January of 2014. So we'll fill you in on some of that. And then we'll go right into the training portion of this webinar, talking about some responsibilities that you have as president-elect, the strategic planning process. We will share with you the national strategic plan. We are actually starting over with a new 3-year cycle because of some of the market research that we have discovered. This has led us to start a new 3-year cycle. And we will share with you which portions of the plan the chapters adopt. It's mostly the high-level portions. And then how to align your chapter tactics with that of the national plan. So we'll give you some examples that you can consider, and then we will conclude with action items that you will need to be aware of, which are very important to carry on the strategic planning work that you'll do on a chapter level in the spring months leading up to the Chapter Leadership Conference. So first, let's start with our journey. During the last 6 months, the ASID National Office has embarked on a journey towards ASID 2.0. As a professional society, we want to provide the maximum value to our members, keep our current members engaged and renewing, and attract new members who can benefit from the services we provide. But to figure out where we are going, we first had to take a critical look at where we are today as an organization, who we are serving, and what challenges and opportunities exist in the marketplace. We have conducted a deep analysis of our membership data so we can better profile what types of members join, renew, and depart from the society. And we have invested in research in order to quantify the challenges that we have in terms of brand, product offering, and overall experience. And through our research efforts, we have talked to thousands of members and prospects so that their voices can be heard and included in the journey. First, let's start by looking at some actual numbers. During the last 8 years, our total number of practitioners, that's the professional, allied, and associate categories combined, have decreased from 20,000 in 2005 to 15,000 today. While we have new members that join the society every day, we have not been able to retain our practitioners. So even though we created new categories like associate and educator partner in recent years, those new categories have not offset the decline in membership overall. Now our professional members are most likely to stay. They stay in the society for an average of 15 years. However, our allied members stay only about 6 years, and our student members only 2.5 years. So this is very concerning to the society, obviously. Speaking of students, our student population has dropped by more than 50% during the same time period. Our student members will soon be joining the workforce, and their commitment to the society is critical for the long-term viability of our organization. We need to find ways to better connect to the students and court them for conversion to practitioners upon graduation. Currently, there are 20,000 students enrolled in CETA-accredited programs, and the Department of Education reports that nearly 4,500 students graduate each year from higher education programs. Just to give you a pulse of how many student members we have today, this recording is happening on April 4th, 2014. We have about 5,000 student members right now. The height of our student membership happened in 2008 when we had about 12,000 student members. So we've lost 7,000 student members, and that's quite considerable. Earlier I mentioned that we have conducted several rounds of surveys in order to collect the opinions of our members and prospects. In a recent survey, we asked if the value of ASID membership was greater than the cost of dues, equal to the cost of dues, or less than the cost of dues. And only 53% said that the value of ASID membership was greater than or equal to the cost of dues. That means that nearly half, 47%, said the value was less than the cost of dues. When we looked at this question by membership category, we found that industry partner members appear to find the most value, but our practitioner members appear to have the least value. With our practitioner members being the core audience we're trying to serve, we need to better understand their needs and wants so we can deliver programs and events that prove ASID membership is, in fact, a valuable investment. In our research, we asked current members and prospects to tell us what ASID programs, services, products, or benefits first come to mind. Respondents had an opportunity to provide up to 5 answers to this question, and an alarmingly large number of respondents, about 25%, could not think of one answer to provide. This has really made our office think hard about what we are offering and how we are communicating the value of ASID to the marketplace. We also included a few questions about local chapters. We know that local chapters are very important to the member experience, and they agreed. 76% said that local chapter membership is important, but nearly a quarter, 22%, said they are dissatisfied with their local chapter. So we have one last piece of data to share. We looked at the age distribution of our current member practitioners, so this excludes students, and compared that to the distribution of the U.S. workforce from the census. 71% of ASID practitioners are 45 years and over, and 13% are 65 years of age and over. Those are large portions of our membership that are aging and moving towards retirement. While we by all means want to continue serving these loyal members, we also want to ensure that ASID is truly representative of the interior design industry. So yes, we do have some challenges ahead of us. In addition to the data we already talked about, we know that the interior design industry is highly fragmented, and there are also many entities that are competing to get the time and attention from practitioners. Other professional organizations, media companies, manufacturers, trade show organizations, etc. ASID is also dependent on our membership dues. Nearly 90% of revenue that comes into the organization is from membership dues. This is unusual compared to other professional organizations, which typically see this much lower, somewhere around 33%. So we have been investing a significant amount of time in developing some new programs and events. For example, the Design to Lead Summit, which is coming up in May in Atlanta. We believe there is a big opportunity to grow our non-dues revenue from these types of programs. And finally, there are some perceptions in the marketplace about what types of designers ASID serves. We're going to talk more about that in a couple of slides. Instead of thinking about all of this as challenges, we are focusing on the opportunities that lay ahead. First, the interior design industry is a growing industry. The census forecasts that the number of interior designers is going to increase by 14% during the next 10 years. In fact, the greater design community should see increases across the board. This is great news, as there will be more customers we can serve through membership and other programs and events. There are a wide range of professionals in our industry, from residential to commercial, from sole proprietor to those working in large firms. We are all currently capturing about 27% of the market as members. So there is a large portion of the industry out there in untapped markets. We need to better understand who else is out there and what benefits and services they are looking for so we can draw more of them in. We have culled through all this data and environment assessment and have decided to take an optimistic approach regarding our future as a society. The National Board gave us permission to rethink our strategic plan so that we could have a chance to do things differently in light of the challenges and opportunities we just reviewed. While the overall goals remain the same, and we will be sharing those with you later in the presentation, we have taken a critical look at the strategies and tactics to ensure we are on the right path for growth. Some of the changes we have made are to ensure a better use of assets, development of new products and services that resonate with our industry, and a declaration of our overall position. ASID is different from all other professional associations in our industry because we are the one organization that represents all aspects of the interior design profession. You may have seen this in Rochelle's February 2004 President's Letter. ASID serves the full range of the interior design profession and practice through the Society's programs, networks, and advocacy. We thrive on the strength of cross-functional and interdisciplinary relationships among designers of all specialties, including workplace, healthcare, retail, hospitality, education, institutional, and residential. We lead interior designers in shared conversations around topics that matter, from evidence-based and human-centric design to social responsibility, well-being, and sustainability. We showcase the impact of design on the human experience and the value interior designers provide. In addition to outlining our position for the industry, we have also been looking at the types of members we are serving. Today's core member tends to be a sole proprietor or working in a small firm, working in a mixed practice of both residential and commercial. We need to find better ways to retain these core members. But we also need to be thinking about what other segments of customers are out there. We believe there are several key untapped segments that are potential growth markets for ASID. And you'll see these on the screen in the red bubbles. For example, by attracting more emerging professionals and mid-careerists at the top 100 giant firms, we will begin to break down perceptions about ASID being residential only. This means that as an organization overall, we need to strengthen our messaging to these new audiences and build programming that will meet their needs. These are critical pieces for us to be authentic in being the one voice for the industry. So again, on this slide, you will see pretty much buckets that categorize the total universe of customers that the Society can serve. And the red bubbles are pointed out as kind of the highest impact bubbles that we can focus on and align and develop new products and services that are attractive to these markets in order to populate the organization with members to deliver them to the next generation of ASID leadership and make this organization one that is very sustainable and holds its place in the industry as a leadership organization. So the fourth bubble on the right, small firms, mixed practice, again, that is our core membership right now. These members are very important to us, obviously, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to increase the retention of these members. And then the other three bullets, students at top ranking schools. These are students that are hired by the top 100 giant firms, which is kind of the next bullet off to the left, emerging professionals and mid-careerists at those firms. And then both of those two bubbles are influenced by named designers. And by named designers, we're talking about influential designers out there in the marketplace that are easily recognizable by their achievements, accomplishments, their published work, their accolades. These are people that are just very well known in the industry and act as influencers to students and emerging professionals. So you can kind of see how these first three bullets all thread together on a pathway of leadership. And so if we can target these new markets on a national level and on the chapter level across the network of this country, then we can really start to grow ASID and maintain our leadership position in the industry. So now we're going to move on into the training portion of this presentation. I'm sure many of the president-elects are already familiar with strategic planning, having been involved prior on strategic planning committees or having the leadership succession from the president having been well established. But we are just going to take some time to go through some of the basics. So here on this slide, you'll see the responsibilities of the president-elect. Really, this is the person that will be shaping and forming along with other members that you invite to be a part of the Strategic Planning Committee. You'll be shaping the landscape of what ASID will be trying to accomplish within your chapter in your leadership term as president. So you will be forming a strategic planning committee, scheduling meetings around the strategic planning calendar, which typically takes place starting in or around February and goes until the summer months when you finally have your plan in final form along with a budget and work plan and put it to the board for a vote. You work with facilitators to guide the process and refine the final product. That's what ASID staff leadership here is here for, as well as the chapter support team that you work with throughout the year. And also as president-elect, you're ultimately responsible for the outcomes. So again, that's the completed plan, work plan, and budget, which once voted on in the summer are turned into the ASID headquarters office by August 31st. And so strategic planning is really an organization's process of defining direction and making decisions about allocating resources. So that's pretty simple to understand. We do this in business every day in our normal jobs, but strategic planning is just kind of a formalized term for the process. And we're really asking three questions. What do we do, for whom do we do it, and how do we excel? And so really, you'll see that the strategic plans comprise of different levels. They begin with very broad, high-level statements at the top and then work down to specific action steps. So everything feeds into the next layer. And this diagram is in the strategic planning guide, which we kind of updated this year for all of the chapters, so you should already have that. It is also available on the chapter resources section of the ASID website. So we'll just go through these different layers. The why statement is similar to a mission statement. So this statement defines why ASID exists and what it aims to do. And the ASID why statement is ASID advances the profession and communicates the impact of interior design to enhance the human experience. The next, the core values and strategic guideposts. These statements serve as, just like I said, strategic guideposts, and they can provide a quick reference to whether a proposed activity aligns with the organizational values. So ASID's core values include leading collaboration with those working to promote the value of interior design. ASID prepares its members to excel in a dynamic and evolving profession competing in a global marketplace. And thirdly, ASID advances the profession by generating, collecting, and disseminating applied knowledge. Moving down, goals. These are broad statements that address the why statement and fundamental aims of the organization. So ASID has 4 goals within its strategic plan, and these really haven't changed since last year. So I think I mentioned earlier that we're starting a new 3-year cycle. So the strategic plan is now 2014, which we're kind of well into the year, through 2016. But you'll notice within the strategic plan that the goals and objectives haven't changed since what you've seen before from last year. So that's going to be very familiar to you. So again, goal 1 is be the core of the design network. Goal 2 is expand knowledge. Goal 3 is develop the practice. And goal 4 is create a performance-oriented organization. Next on down the list is objectives. These are action statements that specifically support the goal. And then strategies are specific approaches taken to carry out objectives, followed by the real nitty-gritty, which are the tactics. And these are the statements that delineate specific tasks or action steps taken to achieve strategies. So these are really a lot of times tactics will be written even out in a very sequential manner because everything supports the next layer up. Now we move into metrics. Metrics are a really important part of the plan. Sometimes they get overlooked, but this is really how we can measure success as an organization. We take them very important, very critically on a national level. I mean, this is really what staff are accountable for, and a lot of the national board meetings are spent discussing our metrics and how well we're doing as an organization and accountability. So on a chapter level, obviously they also measure activities and performance. They're usually aligned with just the most important aspects of the organizational strategy, and they're often designed to capture the cumulative effects of multiple tactics or even strategies. So again, when you're forming metrics, you're not going to form a metric around every tactic or strategy. In the National Strategic Plan, we really try to form metrics around each objective. And then everything under that kind of wraps up and supports that metric. And we'll see that a little later. And then something new that we added to the strategic planning guide this year is kind of helps wrap your head around metrics and measures of success. We really tried to categorize common metric areas in 5 different categories, and this is what a lot of the idea generation at the President's Forum was based around this year. So first up, we have engagement, and so obviously with engagement, you can measure how many people attended and participated in the event, and you can kind of break that out by members and non-members. And again, your non-members are your prospects that you want to follow up with. How satisfied were attendees with the experience. So you can measure that by putting out a post-event evaluation survey to all of the attendees. And we recommend doing that within the week that the event was held so that it's fresh on people's minds. A lot of times people still also put kind of hard copy evaluation forms on the chairs of an event and ask people to kind of fill them out and leave them on the chairs so they have really an immediate response from or reaction to an event. The next is perception. How aware are the chapter members of the offering, and how do chapter members rate the offering's importance? So again, this can be done by different kind of surveying techniques or even different focus groups or qualitative conversations that you might have on the chapter level with members as well as non-members. So this is really all about changing the perception of ASID that we kind of know out there. A lot of stakeholders see ASID as a residential-only society, but obviously everyone watching the webinar knows that we're not and understands the legacy of ASID and what we've contributed to elevate the profession. Then we have revenue. So how much revenue was generated through the actions in your strategic plan. So for example, that could be ticket sales, course fees, sponsorship donations, that sort of thing. And then retention. Do renewing chapter members mention the offering as a reason for renewal? So a lot of times when you have renewing members, one technique you can use is, kind of putting out thank you phone calls to them and just having quick conversations with them on the phone as to, like, thank you for renewing your membership. What in particular stands out to you as the most beneficial part of your membership? Why did you choose to renew? And then you can really assess whether any of the activities, events, programs, products, anything new that you, or, continual that you had put in your strategic plan contributed to that person renewing. And then finally, growth. So this is really recruitment. How many member prospects or leads were generated and how many members were recruited in your leadership term. And so then moving on to the strategic planning committee, when you're forming a committee, be really mindful about who you're inviting to be on the committee. Our typical benchmark is to include, 5 to 6 people that encompass a variety of perspectives. So be mindful about the different practice sectors that they represent or that they're experts in, and also include people in different career stages. It is absolutely not out of the question to include a student leader on your strategic planning committee. Including a student or emerging professional will give you the perspective of, the new target audiences that we are trying to attract. I've even seen some very successful chapters include a non-member on their strategic planning committee, which I think is a really innovative and wise idea because they can kind of bring to the table the perspective of someone that's not really on the inside, but that is kind of viewing the chapter and the organization on a national level from an outsider perspective, and it can really kind of shape that, a change in that perspective moving forward. Also this year we'd like President-elects to invite the seated president to serve on the committee to help facilitate the ASID 2.0 direction, because your seated president did get a large amount of information on data in the marketplace, ASID 2.0 at the President's Forum. The beginning of this presentation really kind of culled that down and consolidated the information and only shared the highlights. But the President will be able to really inform the process, not, oversee the process. That really is your job as President-elect, but help contribute in a very special way this year. And then also create a finance subcommittee to include yourself, the finance director, and the chapter administrator. So this will be kind of like the budgeting or finance subcommittee. And then before you start the strategic planning committee work, and most of you have probably already done this, collect background information needed. So take a look at your current strategic plan and guide. Look into any program and project evaluations from the current plan, because what you may do, obviously, is most chapters will kind of just carry over things that are working really well for them from plan to plan. And that's absolutely acceptable and encouraged. So you're going to want to take a look at your last year and get with folks that kind of manage projects and see which was really kind of like a hallmark event or something that you would want to repeat, maybe just tinkering it a little bit. Take a look at your financials from the previous 3 years and any sort of other notes that were captured in the board meeting, and obviously any member needs surveys that you fielded in the past several months. To see what your members really are looking for in terms of content, engagement, networking, events, volunteer opportunities, any ways that they can get involved. And so then moving into the calendar, obviously we're well into this now. Everyone has received their strategic planning guide, which was updated by the staff leaders in the winter. Use advice from the guide, forming your strategic planning committee. I'm sure all the chapters have already done that. We did hold the President's Forum, and hopefully you received an in-person or on the phone recap from your seated president, but we've tried to do a good job with filling all the president-elects in through email as to what happened at that event, and also provide you with any tools that the presidents received so everyone's kind of on the same page. And then this is the recording from the kickoff webinar that we hosted live on Wednesday, March 12th. Moving into April, this is when your strategic planning committee work really starts to take form. Hopefully during this month, all the chapter committees can meet to draft a plan using the template. And then the CST and ASID staff are going to try to schedule CST calls. So this will be, each CST advisor or member advises a group of chapter presidents throughout the year. So this will be the month that they'll actually be having conference calls with their president-elect groups to talk about how things are going with your strategic plan. And actually, we're going to make sure to have an ASID staff representative on each of those calls as well, since we're kind of taking a role in providing this type of assistance in these forms of webinars and then on-site workshop facilitation at chapter leaders at the Chapter Leadership Conference this year in LA. And then moving, so that'll kind of get the wheels turning. So we'll check in with you on the phone in April. And then in May, we are going to schedule a secondary webinar on the 21st, which will be led by Rick Paluzzo, our CFO, who I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And that will be really talking about how to align your budget and your resource allocations with what you're trying to accomplish in your strategic plan. So that will be a great secondary supplementary webinar. And then in June, we're going to ask all of you to bring your strategic plans, budgets, and work plans, however far you've gotten, with you to the Chapter Leadership Conference, because we're going to have an integrated strategic planning workshop. And so there will be, there will be many staff leaders, board leaders, and foundation trustees, and also chapter support team representatives on hand in that room to help you work through any lingering questions or areas of concern you have about your plan, or really try to help you turn things around with any challenges that you're facing on a chapter level, and really kind of just take a deep look at your plan and help you through any considerations that you have. Not to take over or dictate, just really to be there as a support system and help you take a refined plan back to your chapter in the summer months so that it can go up for a vote. And then finally, that's what I just talked about. Finalizing it and then voting on it, approving it, and turning it into ASID headquarters by August 31st. And so now what I'm going to share with you is it's not the strategic plan template, which you've already received, but it's going to call out different sections of it. And what it's really going to do is look at each of the goals and objectives, and then more so look at examples of what we're accomplishing on a national level as far as tactics, and then give examples of how chapter level tactics could align. And again, these are just examples. Many of the examples have come direct from ideas which were generated at the President's Forum. So these are ideas that were generated by your seated presidents. They were not just kind of made up in a vacuum by staff. So that was really an improvement this year, I think, to the process, so that everyone's kind of acting as a collective with a greater goal in mind to improve ASID. And again, the portions of when you're looking at the template that you've received, the portions of the strategic plan that the chapters adopt kind of like word for word are just the core values, the mission statement or the why statement, the core values, and the goals. And many chapters will also adopt the objectives. And then the areas that you really can customize to your chapters are the strategies and tactics. So today I am just sharing with you examples of chapter tactics, not strategies. We've kind of heard feedback before that the chapters don't really have difficulty forming their own strategies, but when it gets down to the real nitty-gritty, they've asked for examples of tactics. So we've really tried to respond to that and provide those for you today. So we already talked about this. This is, again, the why statement and the core values, which act as the strategic guideposts, and this is what you will adopt from the national plan, word for word. And then these are the strategic goals, which will also be adopted. So I think I mentioned these earlier in the presentation, and then you'll kind of see kind of a tagline beneath each of the goals, which talks a little bit, describes them a little bit more in detail so that people can have more clarity around the goals when they're forming other portions of the strategic plan that can contribute to the overall goals. So on this, I'm going to introduce each of the tactic examples by just kind of going over the objective and the strategies. So in the next few slides, we'll review Goal 1 and its related objectives, strategies, and tactics, as well as provide you with examples of how chapter tactics could align. And again, the chapter examples are just that. You can consider them for insertion in your own plan, but obviously you're not required to. The Goal 1, again, is be the core of the design network, demonstrate the value of ASID network to all stakeholders so that ASID is recognized as the industry leader. And so you'll see the objective here and the strategies, and this is really a nationally driven section of the plan. This is talks a lot about convening thought leaders and developing a point of view and kind of leadership information around the topics of globalization, social responsibility, and design impact on human experience, as well as new business models, and then working with other partnership organizations to push this agenda forward. So because it's very nationally driven and requires a lot of investment and resources that only the society on the national level has to tap into, you'll see that there aren't many chapter level examples for tactics, which could align to this goal. So again, on the left, that's what we are committed to implementing on a national level. And then the only example that we could really come up with for the chapter is helping to identify cross-sector content experts at the local level and just letting us know who those folks are for consideration and convening them in a think tank or a thought leadership kind of circle so that we can tackle these 3 bucket area topics, again, the globalization, social responsibility, and new business models. The second objective, though, in Goal 1 is really a place where chapters can shine. This really, to summarize it, just talks about creating events and programs. So this is what we spend a lot of our time on the national level as well as on the chapter level. So these are, you know, basically creating programs that are in response to some of the data and information that we glean from the think tank activities in Objective 1, as well as host meetings kind of in a roadshow format to get in front of those new target audiences to tell them what ASID is all about and also listen to what they need. So this can be kind of viewed as a listening tour. And again, those new target markets are the named designers, the emerging professionals and mid-careers at top 100 giant firms, as well as students at the top ranking design schools. And those schools are identified by the annual top 10 ranked interior design programs, both undergraduate and graduate, by Design Intelligence. And the top 100 giants are ranked every year by Interior Design Magazine. So I'm not going to read all of these out, obviously. this webinar is available for you to view as many times as you want, but you can see that there are a whole host of chapter level tactics that we collected from the President's Forum and ideated around with the volunteer leaders. So you can kind of take a look and see how these kind of line up. Again, the left side is what we're committed to implementing as staff, and then you'll see your examples on the right. So really a lot of awesome ideas came out of this with the mindset that we're trying to attract those new target markets, and a lot of these really focus on attracting those younger designers, which we need to populate the society with to carry the organization forward. Objective 3 under Goal 1 is collecting and sharing information with our network. So, whatever information that we glean from Objectives 1 and 2, we want to make sure that anyone who's not any customers or stakeholders who were not physically able to participate in those think tank circles or events and programs, that they still get the information. Maybe they are people that live in a rural area, or they just don't have the time or money to attend events and programs, but they're online. They get Icon Magazine. They can take online CEUs. We just want to make sure that those type of members are just as informed as the members who actively engage in person at ASID events. So this is really all about just putting that information out through our communication channels and recognition programs. So you'll see that reflected on the society level, and then again here in examples of chapter tactics. So a lot of this is really the same sort of thing. Our chapters have their own communication channels, their websites, their magazines, their newsletters and blogs, just as we do on a national level. So same sort of thing going on here as far as sharing and disseminating that information to the members at large. Goal 2 is to broaden the technological expertise. That is the Objective 1 under Goal 2. So let me just do a refresh on what Goal 2 is. Goal 2 is expand knowledge, create, collect, and distribute high-value information that establishes ASID as the foremost resource for interior design knowledge. So that's the overall goal. There are several objectives under it. The first objective here, which you'll see, is broaden the technological expertise of ASID members. I mean, I think we're all aware that not just interior design, but everywhere around us you'll see like the world is constantly evolving and changing, and the tools that we have now are different than the tools that we had just 2 years ago. And it's probably hard to imagine how we even got by without certain things. So we just want to make sure a lot of the new tools that are coming out and developed by our industry partners or some of these tech giants, we want to make sure that our members and staff know all about them and can be early adopters and are kind of like not on the lagging side of adopting and utilizing these tools to, enhance their business and move them forward on their own professional path. So that's what really what we're talking about with this objective in particular. So on a society level, we're committed to forging new partnerships with software companies like Adobe and Autodesk, and then explaining new tips and tools in our communication channels and including technology sessions at our educational events. And then at the chapter level, this can also be implemented. This is a great way to engage some of your younger members because they're already familiar with these tools. And so a lot of what we've learned too is that, Generation Y, what they really like out of an association and what keeps them joining and renewing is when an association does a very good job at 5 elements. Teach me, mentor me, acknowledge me, reward me, and listen to me. I think ASID does a very good job with some of those, but what we don't do a lot is listen to me. We do a great job of welcoming students to events greeting them at the door, teaching them, mentoring them, but we never asked for their perspective. We never put them on a panel. They're shaping the profession from a very early career stage, but there are so many of them, and they're learning different techniques and getting new cutting-edge information in the classroom and through ASID publications, and they really can contribute to the conversation. So this is a great way to do that, to host early adopter demos and presentations at chapter events and have them be the teachers. Objective 2 under Goal 2 is establish a long-term research agenda. So a lot of times, throughout the plan, you're going to see research repeated. And so whenever you see research, just know that that's kind of like an indicator for something that is very nationally driven, because research comes with a decent amount of investment. The findings from the research can certainly be disseminated on the back end through chapter communication channels and educational programs and that sort of thing. But this is establishing the agenda. So again, you'll always see one chapter level tactic here, and it's really just promoting the programs that we have in place on a national level, so that we create awareness out in the design community that ASID is offering these type of things. I mean, our ASID Transform grant is really, really impressive. It awards, a huge chunk of money to whoever the winning applicants are to pursue their research agendas. And, this year it was focused on workplace, and the year before it was focused on healthcare. So clearly, we are serving the diverse scope of the industry and all of its practice sectors. And just promoting these type of things on a local level can really help change the perception that ASID is not just catering to one practice sector in particular. And so the third objective under Goal 2 is disseminate applied research findings and design solutions. So this sounds a lot like the third objective in the first goal, which is really disseminating information that was talked about, discussed, debated with the think tanks along the lines of the 3 bucket areas of globalization, social responsibility, as well as new business models. But this is actually disseminating the applied research findings. So this is a little bit different. This is taking all the white papers and the studies and everything technical that we've done with our research agenda and kind of pushing it out there through programs and communication pieces. So you'll see this is where the chapter can contribute a lot more. They're not doing the research themselves, but they are promoting the findings. And there are a whole host of ways that you'll see here on the chapter side that you can do that on a tactical level. Really cool stuff. I think the whole research agenda really will show ASID in the light that we've kind of always been shown in, but I think people have kind of forgotten. And they need to be reminded of ASID's leadership position in this light. Now we have moved on to Goal 3. And as a reminder, Goal 3 is to develop the practice, deliver resources that help designers expand their practices. So the first objective under Goal 3 really focuses on our marketing, communications, and advocacy work. These are really the areas that we shine and help promoting the value of interior design to clients, customers, and also our advocacy work to expand opportunities for designers to practice. So a lot of this, again, it's pretty clear. This is the work of our marketing and communications business unit, as well as our government and public affairs business unit here at the headquarters office. But there are lots of ways, obviously, that chapters can help change perception about ASID. So you'll see a lot of those featured here. A lot of it has to do with just acknowledgement of different achievements, accomplishments, design project work, innovation in all practice sectors, whether that's highlighted at a chapter event, whether it's highlighted on the website, whether you create a program around it. That's really what we're talking about here in the chapter level tactic examples that you see, as well as spreading the advocacy message to students and emerging professionals and the new target markets, and really inviting them to help contribute and get involved with the ASID legislative and public policy symposiums that we host nationally. The second objective is to deliver business development education that members will value. We have started with this a couple years ago in the development of business strategies CEU series, which are hosted online. And we have kind of, so that is really for the core membership. That's for our sole proprietor or small firms that are working in mixed practices. And that's just giving them some business acumen and business management education so that their businesses can bring in more revenue and thrive. We have expanded this into some larger in-person events. We actually just hosted our first one in Los Angeles. And those are hosted by Steve Noble. Very successful. So we'll be continuing those on a regional level, probably just a few a year. And then on the flip side, we're going to be trying to pursue creating short, self-paced online business education products, which are aimed at the commercial sector. And so those will really be aimed at kind of like the mid-career or advanced professional levels in design firms, not as much focused on the kind of emerging professionals. These are really going to be like, change management, that sort of thing, like things that the higher level leaders in firms would need to know in order to make sure that the businesses are still relevant in this ever-evolving industry. So at the chapter level, you can see different, again, different tactic examples. There are different ways that you can kind of facilitate business management needs for both small firm and large firm, both residential and commercial. And I see our chapter is doing a great job at this already. So these are just some examples to keep carrying it forward if this is an area where you think your chapter has some room for development. And then finally, we are at the last goal. Goal 4 speaks to create a performance-oriented culture, design and implement a leadership culture that increases organizational performance and results in the optimization of human resources. This goal largely speaks to ensuring that ASID remains a successful and sustainable business, both with its assets of people, systems, and equipment, and cash. So there are definitely ways in which chapters can help ASID in this regard. So let's go ahead and take a look. A lot of this is nationally driven as we talk about just the organization as a whole, its infrastructure, its volunteer leaders, and then break down staff, volunteers, and chapters. Excuse me. So on the society level, you'll see, what we're committed to again. And then on the chapter level, it's really just in forming a high-performing culture with volunteers. It's a little bit lighter, but it's just really, it's all about alignment. So it's all about alignment and making volunteer opportunities attractive, attainable, diverse in scope, and really welcoming in those new target markets and designers at every career stage to contribute to the success of the organization on a local level. So that's kind of where these ideas were generated at the President's Forum. It was really more focused on, alignment and bringing in different groups of volunteers, fresh ideas, and creating opportunities for them. I really love this idea, just approaching each student leader at their graduation with a volunteer position invite. It's kind of hard to say no when someone focuses, calls you out particularly and recognizes your unique skill sets and then invites you to volunteer. It's kind of hard to say no. And then the second objective is obviously securing long-term organizational viability. This is really about the business of ASID, making sure that we're sustainable, making sure that we have all the resources that we need to carry forth the business of the society. So this is talking about growth, retention, and revenue, those three metric areas that I discussed earlier. Obviously, chapters can contribute a great deal to this through its recruitment campaigns, methods, and techniques. That's what a lot of these chapter level tactic examples talk about. And there were also a lot of revenue ideas that came out of the President's Forum as well. So those are kind of like the last 3 bullet points that you see: designer consults for consumers at a cost, and then kind of different ways to work with IPs to charge them to kind of highlight what they've got going on, and then kind of upsell opportunities at your events. Like, I love this last idea: provide a chance for select designers to pay for private time with a VIP speaker prior to their keynote. That's really innovative. I love that. And then the third objective is very nationally driven as well. It's really just trying to fix all of the equipment, systems, infrastructure, just kind of like all of that stuff that, you know, we deal with on the back end. You know, our chapter administrators obviously work with these systems every day as well, but this would be like the website, our database, and all other types of kind of administrative functions, systems, equipment. So we are taking a hard look at that, trying to prioritize what we can fix with what resources we've got going on while we're still trying to obviously provide benefits and services and programs to our membership. We just need to balance that out. And so really what the chapter can help with is just documenting operational challenges that you have at a chapter level and communicating that to us, and then, you know, us working with you to help build out solutions, because maybe what we're doing on a national level could translate on a local level. So that is it. That is taking you through the whole strategic plan, all of the chapter level tactics, except these are not all of the tactic examples. What you have also received are the tabulated list of ideas that actually were generated at the President's Forum. Everyone should have received that. There were over 2,000 ideas generated, so we did a fair amount of work in March to pull those ideas down, focus them, categorize them. And so that is another resource that you can look to for tactical level ideas that you could insert throughout your strategic plan. So now we are going to highlight a brand new tool that ASID has done a lot of work on developing for chapters, so that they can kind of take a snapshot of their chapter health in terms of their membership numbers, their financial position, their penetration rate for NCIDQ certificate holders, as well as their communication efforts and engagement efforts on a large scale. So this is called the chapter checkup. We called it the checkup because, again, we're trying to just give a snapshot of the health and position of a chapter as it can compare to ASID as a whole, to the region which the chapter is positioned in, as well as this, and we felt like this is the most important thing that chapters would want to compare to, chapters that are of the same size. So I'm going to take you through how to look at this checkup. Every chapter president and president-elect has received their chapter checkup. We are going to aim to provide updated, we collect kind of all the metrics and put it out in a report to the chapters here on a staff level. So there's really not much that the chapters have to do except for submitting your financial reports, so that you get your allocations, submitting those on time, because that information gets put right into this report, and answering any qualitative surveys that we field in order to populate some of the metrics and data that you'll see on the backside. So let me take you through. This first part really, and this is a zoom in, really captures the total members and also gives you kind of a historical trend line. So it'll give you a snapshot, and it's as of January 31st, 2004, of what your membership has. And so, again, we're just going to compare for this tool in particular, we felt that chapters were most concerned of how they kind of ranked or stood out in terms of the average of other chapters, their size. And when we talk about other chapters, their size, sizes are based on current number of practitioners in each chapter. The practitioners are the members, obviously, that when they pay to join ASID, a percentage of that money comes back in form of allocations to the chapter. So that is how we determine size. And so any figures, when you look at your checkup in blue, you are faring better than the average of the chapter of your size, and anything in red, you're lagging a little behind. So that's kind of how you interpret the color coding here. So again, you'll see when you look at your checkup, a snapshot of all your members, and then the members that you had on September 30th of 2010. So you can kind of see, and all across the board, chapters have seen a decline, as well as on a national level we have, obviously. The next section talks about retention and finances. So here you'll kind of also see your average annual retention rate, as well as terminated members on the historical trend line. So we're really measuring this between 2010 and 2013, so a 3-year cycle. And then the only thing to note here is that when evaluating terminated members, this is the one area where a lower percentage is more desirable, obviously, and then you'll see that we've accounted for that with the color code comparison. So on your checkup, it already reflects that. So again, the red, you're kind of lagging, not doing as well as the average, and the blue, you're always going to be kind of more ahead of the game. And again, with the financials, this is just also gives a snapshot once we receive Q1 financial reports. And going back a step farther, a quarter ahead of that was the Q4 of fiscal year 2013. So this is the information that you'll see in the checkup you've already received if your chapter submitted that to us. And it gives you a snapshot of your total income, your reserves, so what you have in savings, and then any type of sponsorship revenue that you pulled in. And we did not do any color coding here, obviously, because this is kind of really, it's not something that you can kind of measure chapter against the average, because every chapter is really different in this area, and the cash flow kind of comes and goes. And so we weren't really trying to color code anything with the financials. The last thing on this page kind of takes a look at NCIDQ penetration rate. So when you look at your checkup, this is a little bit different just as far as how NCIDQ reports to us. We took a look at where the 29,000 certificate holders live across the country to figure out how many of them we have as members. And so the information from NCIDQ is only available at the state level. However, our chapter territories obviously don't align perfectly to states. So we have some chapters that span multiple states, but then we have some instances with multiple chapters within a state. So on your checkup, you'll see what states are relevant to your chapter. So for example, the Alabama report will just show Alabama. But for Texas, Gulf Coast, and Texas, they'll see the same data for all of Texas. And the Carolina chapters, on the other hand, will see data for North and South Carolina combined. And again, the state geography is noted on each checkup. This is the back side of the chapter checkup report. And This data that you'll see on your report was in response to a qualitative survey that we put out in January and asked presidents to respond to before the President's Forum so that we could create this report for each of the chapters and hand them to the presidents at the forum. So this is the information. As the promotional channels, the question that was asked on the survey was, how does your chapter promote ASID membership? And so this was an open-ended question. So really what this reflects, like these 4 categories, are what was at the top of mind of each of the presidents. So the 4 categories that really came out were social media, e-blast, website, and promoting ASID at in-person events. So your chapter could either say yes or no, and then the checkup report will, kind of reflect the average. So again, this is top of mind. So if, website is kind of just like a no-brainer, a president might have not even thought of the website because it's just always promoting and they were thinking about other things. So not a section to take too critically, just to note that these are different promotional channels that you could be using and to be aware of. Under the yearly sector-focused events, the question that was asked on the survey was, does your chapter hold events at least yearly to attract prospects practicing in? And then we gave them the choices of residential, workplace, hospitality, healthcare, or others. And so what this really measures is your chapter holding events that target these practice sectors at least yearly? So are you at least yearly having one event that targets residential, one for workplace, one for hospitality, one for healthcare? And if it's an event that really is attractive to all practice sectors, then you would really be doing a great job, because that's really what we want to see for ASID. I mean, people do need their niche events where they want to network with other people that are particular to their sector and trade information and kind of just see what's going on. And but then the cross-sector draw events are really a good way to, promote the benefit of ASID and the fact that we reflect the whole or cater to the whole industry. So again, you will have the checkup report will just reflect whether you're doing that at least yearly, and then what all the other chapters are doing that are of your size. And then lastly, at chapter events, the question that was asked for members and prospect events, the question that was asked on the survey is, at chapter events, what percentage of attendees are students, emerging professionals, mid-careerists, or advanced professionals? And by advanced professionals, we mean kind of like, obviously that principal level, or even active retired, or like, the fellows of ASID. And so this will be very telling when you look at your checkup, because if you see that at chapter events, only like 10% of your attendees are students and emerging professionals, and those are really our new high-level new target markets we're trying to attract, then you're probably going to want to, that will inform your strategic planning work this spring, because you're going to want to look through the plan for areas and opportunities where you can engage those students and emerging professionals more, so that you can bring more of them to your events. And not just members, non-members too. I mean, a lot of times with non-members, you can't give them the hard sell. Like, they're going to want to start seeing the value of what ASID offers and seeing that there are other people like them, that look like them, talk like them, are in the same point of their lives at chapter events. They're going to kind of want to dip their toe in the water and attend a few things before they actually join as a member. So that's something to keep in mind too when it comes to prospects. And so the last thing, we definitely wanted to make sure that all of the data is clear, so we provided a fair amount of footnotes. And let's zoom in, we'll just kind of talk about that. So it talks about, like, with the membership figures, who that excludes, the color coding, how to interpret that, and then it actually gives you all of the chapters that were included in each of the 4 chapter sizes, so whether that's very large, mid-size, or small, and then gives you the regional breakdown as well. So we kind of broke it into 4 quadrants. So going back to the checkup, this was a large undertaking, work done primarily by Andy Whitaker, who is our Director of Market Sector Research. If you have any questions, any detailed questions about the checkup, you can contact ASID, and probably the best thing is to ask to speak with Andy. There are several others of us on staff who were involved with the project and can talk about the data pretty intelligently, but Andy can give you the deep dive. So you've received your chapter checkup. We will also be updating the data and providing a revised chapter checkup to each of the chapters at the Chapter Leadership Conference in June. So that's something to look forward to as well. And then we will deliver another checkup at the end of the fiscal year, so in September. Finalize your committee meeting schedule. So I'm sure for many of you that's already underway. View the video content from the President's Forum. We will make the opening keynote from Randy, as well as a keynote by Sherry Jacobs, who is really well known in the association management world. She gave a keynote, and she's also the author of the book, The Art of Membership, and all of the presidents received a copy of that. Those videos are being edited and will be made available this spring for all of the president-elects and actually all incoming chapter leaders to watch before they get to CLC, so that everyone's on the same page and well informed. And then again, we will be scheduling the CST Advisor Conference calls in April. There's the secondary budgeting webinar on May 21st. And then again, we will have the on-site facilitated strategic planning workshop at CLC in June. And then your incoming board leaders, everyone that wasn't on the strategic planning committee, you'll get to kind of report out the process that you went through and where you stand with your strategic plan in a team building or integrated session with anyone from your board that is in attendance at CLC. You'll get to kind of get with them and share kind of where you landed with the strategic plan. This won't be an opportunity for the official board vote that will happen that summer, but at least people will kind of get to see a preview and contribute their ideas as well that they may have come up with throughout the chapter leadership conference, and so you'll have that additional information to consider before you get the plan in its final form to go for a vote with your chapter board. So I think that covers it. As always, let us know on staff how we can help. We're here for you. Your chapter support team is here for you. We have a lot of resources that we can kind of provide to you along this journey. We really thank you for your leadership. I'm not even sure I introduced myself in the beginning, but this is Katie Hansen. I'm the Vice President of Engagement at ASID. So thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in and viewing the webinar, and just let us know if you have any questions. Okay, thanks so much.